Blog Talk Radio.
Coming at you live from the parking lot of Dunkin' Donuts, everybody. You're listening to UMOR, Uncensored MMA Online Radio, with your host, Big Perman the Butcher. Tonight, gang, well, I'm coming to you hot, sweaty, from the parking lot of Dunkin' Donuts. And, man, it's going to be a great night. Things changed up just a little bit. Our guest was going to be Kevin Randleman, but due to a scheduling snafu, looks like we're going to be talking with MMA legend Guy Mezger. And already on the line, I got my co-host each and every week with us, Dave the Butcher Clifford. How the hell are you, motherfucker?
I am doing all right. I'm equally hot, although I'm just out in my yard in the car talking over the Bluetooth here. And holy shit, here we are, huh? Almost the 4th of fucking July. I swear to God, in this town that I live in, our population just tripled. And for some reason, these assholes forget how to drive once they get on vacation.
Don't you just love it when all the vacationers come into town and just fuck everything up?
Well, because, you know, if I go to Detroit, if I fucking linger at a stoplight more than 0.3 seconds, this fucker's laying on their horn and showing me their guns, because it is Detroit. And
right.
But as soon as they get into my town, they completely fucking forget how to drive. They must be on vacation. They must forget everything on vacation because they leave their manners at home. They leave their, you know, they leave their driving skills at home. But at least they bring their daughters.
Hey, amen. Party time. Hey, well, hang on just a second. I got phone lines are blowing up already.
Sweet.
First, I want to bring in Chris Maltzberger from Blue Blood MMA. Chris is our scheduling guru. Chris, how the hell are you tonight, man? Well, I guess he's not there. He must have hung up on us. We'll take the next call.
Hold on.
Maybe so. We must be that great. Hey there, how are you? Who's this?
Hello?
Hello, how are you? You got Big Perman the Butcher. Who's this?
Hey, this is Chris from Uncaged MMA.
Chris, what the fuck's going on, brother? Nice to have you.
Hey, yeah, definitely. I just wanted to call in and kind of keep with the flow of what was going on the last couple of weeks, talking about judging stuff.
Well, man, what's eating at, brother? What you got on your mind?
Hey, man, I've watched that Gray Maynard versus Clay Guida about 3 days in a row now, just going over and over in my head, and I don't understand how the hell Gray Maynard won that fight. I wanted to come on and ask the judge that I was on, how do you, if dropping your hands and getting punched in the face constitutes as you winning a round nowadays?
You know, I often wonder if they took into consideration just the fact that, you know, he was the fighter that was pushing forward. You know, I know it was Guida's strategy to stick and move. I'm just wondering if
he did a lot more moving. He did a hell of a lot more moving than he did sticking, though.
Well, that brings the question: how the hell did Carlos Condit win the interim welterweight belt when he was running the whole fight and Diaz was pressing forward and attacking?
Another controversial one that I didn't like myself, but more as a fan. You know, and I asked a couple of judges about that. We did get a chance to ask Richard Bertrand that last week here on Uncensored MMA Online Radio, and he did say that when a round is so close that you just, you know, there's just a sea hair of distance in between the two, you know, that sometimes the person that's given the fight should get the point. So you're right. That's a great argument, Chris.
Yeah, that's just been something that's been eating at me, and, you know, I've been trying to get on the last couple of weeks because, you know, these judges, I mean, to me it seems like they should stop bringing in these athletic commission judges, these boxing judges, and start bringing in, you know, former fighters. I like to see Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell judge a fight.
You know, it does make some sense. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, with the fighters that are currently, you know, retired and talking about retirement, you know, Tito is talking retirement, Forrest Griffin's talking retirement. You know, guys like our guest tonight, Guy Mezger, you know, he is a retired fighter. I think, Chris, that's probably going to be the answer here in the future, and I hope that we see more of these retired fighters, you know, getting into judging, you know, and not to knock the current judges that we have, because, you know, there are great judges out there. I mean, the guy we had on the show last week, Richard Bertrand, So much experience, and he's got the martial arts training himself to give him the experience to judge that fight. But you're right, guys that have been in the cage and have been in there on the big stage and under those spotlights, in my opinion, would definitely have an advantage to someone who maybe hasn't been on that level.
Although here's an angle that I haven't heard yet when everybody jumps on the retired fighters for judges bandwagon. And that's, what if the motherfucker knows the guy and likes him or hates him or some shit? Because these guys haven't been gone that long. I mean, Randy Couture, especially, if you've been in the game as long as most fighters that are retiring at this point, you're going to know almost everybody in the damn matches. So how the fuck are you supposed to be trusted? That it's just going to give them another argument. So you know what?
The same argument can be applied. The same argument can be applied to the judges that judge now. They've been around the UFC for 8-9 years. They know these guys personally. So who's to say that the judges now don't have favoritism? Maybe, I like, AKA better than I do Greg Jackson's team, so I'm going to give them,
There's a difference between a fighter and a non-fighter, though. See, being a non-fighter, someone in my job, and being in a position where I'm supposed to be non-biased as an announcer. I mean, I can't like one person better than the other. I can't yell one person's name loud and then act like I didn't want to say the other person's name, I mean, I've announced several people I don't like.
Well, we were talking last week about the use of replay being a part of things. Do you think, do you guys ever think that judging by humans will go away ever, and maybe they would come in with some sort of computerized judging system?
No, it'll never happen. It'll never happen.
And see, that's where the problem lies. We are all humans, and as humans, we're going to make mistakes. So I don't think there's ever going to be a judging system that's perfect, and there's always going to be complaints. And half the time, personally, I think the judges are used as scapegoats for unpopular decisions, even though they are the correct ones.
Think about it. These are close fights. These are close fights that we're talking about. And when you've got a fight like, let's use boxing for an example and use the most recent, the Pacquiao fight that was, that was lopsided for Pacquiao.
You mean the one that Tim Bradley obviously won? The one that Tim Bradley obviously won 115 to 113?
Yeah. And you think he obviously won that fight?
Yeah, he obviously won that fight.
And then, okay, well, I didn't think. I beg to differ.
All right, here's the hand grenade. I just pulled the pin. There you go.
Well, I beg to differ, and I forgot my point because you threw that in there. Good job, the host of the show that I'm on Wednesday nights, which is at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 for you Central listeners, called Uncaged MMA, brought to you by Bonafide Tough Guy and Elevation Training Mask, has done a good job circumventing and throwing a monkey wrench in the works and fucking up me making a point yet again. So
thanks for calling, Chris. We so appreciate it, brother.
Oh yeah, I like throwing that wrench in there. Well, and I want to look at let's stay away from boxing real quick and go back over to MMA.
You brought it up. Hold on. You brought it up, and you said it's different. Should be different than boxing. And I want to say that at least in MMA, the fights that we're bitching about are so close that it's so hard to determine a winner that people start asking what the rules even are. And they're very vague. Yeah. So that was my point.
That if you get a wrestler that takes down a jiu-jitsu guy, and the wrestler lays on top of him, but the jiu-jitsu guy is constantly moving, trying to get the sweeps, even if he's not successful with the sweeps. The point is he's fighting from the bottom and he's attacking. MMA, their mindset is you're on top, you're winning the round, and I've lost many a fight like that where I continue to work from the bottom, but the guy lays on me for a couple rounds and steals the round. Just like I don't agree with if you're getting outboxed or if it's we look at the Spencer Fisher, who did he just fight? And Sam Stout. That fight just happened. Spencer Fisher was outboxing the crap out of Sam Stout. But Sam Stout comes in with a single takedown in each round and wins the fight because of those takedowns. That's not fair to me.
Good point.
No, definitely not.
Great.
Well, listen, Chris, we want to thank you for calling in tonight, man, and expressing your point of view and throwing a monkey wrench in Dave's plans.
I do what I can.
Look, every Monday, Chris Dansema is the host of Uncaged MMA. Be heard every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Central, 11 Eastern, along with his co-host and my co-host, Dave the Butcher Clifford. I'm going to get on to my next call. I've got Chris from Blue Blood MMA hanging on the line. Chris Dansema, thanks for calling, brother.
I'll see you tomorrow. We're going down to Newaygo. We're going to Newaygo, brother.
Yep. MXC,
later.
baby.
Yep, later. Yeah, cool.
And now on the line, we got Chris Maltzberger from Blue Blood MMA. Thanks for holding on the line. Chris, how are you, man?
Hi, Jeremy. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, I'm sitting here sweating my balls off in the parking lot of Dunkin' Donuts on University here in Peoria. How are you? Are you air conditioned?
Yeah, no, I'm sitting nice. Yeah, I'm in a room. Got the AC on, got my feet up. You obviously didn't get either one of my texts saying "Don't patch me in." I just want to listen.
Oh no, I wasn't. I didn't pay attention. I heard the texts come through, but I didn't even look at them.
You killed me.
Well, Chris Maltzberger, he's our scheduling guru.
Hey, what's up, Dave? I can't get away with calling the show without getting put on.
Well, why don't you talk about what you got coming up July 14th while you're at it?
Yeah, well, got a great show. I have an annual show in my hometown in Andalusia, Illinois, down at Ducky's Lagoon. And
where?
Andalusia, Illinois. It's the old stomping ground. And I went to school out that area. I got a lot of friends out in that area, and I was really excited.
I think that's where my cell phone came from, because every once in a while I'll be in the middle of a call, Andalusia.
Nice. Andalusia. You're a goofball, man. That's hilarious. That was good, though. I'm not gonna lie. That was good. That was good.
So, Chris, July 14th is Mississippi Mayhem out of Ducky's Lagoon.
Yep.
And if you can't make
out of town, and if you're out of town and you can't make it to the show, if you got some friends or family members or even coworkers or someone that's on the card, or hell, even if you're just a big fan of MMA and you want to see the nation's talent out here in Illinois, you guys can check them out on pay-per-view online at amateurcombatsports.com. Or actually, it's amateurcombatsportslive.com. I'm sorry.
There you go, and you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to mention that.
Yeah. So now
nice.
you can, I'm going to get back to enjoying the show, fellas, and you can go ahead and do your thing. Put me back on mute so I can enjoy the show.
All right, brother, man. You take care, and thanks for all you do.
All right, guys.
All right, that was Chris Maltzberger of Blue Blood MMA. He's our scheduling guru, lines up all our talent each and every week. Well, Dave.
And then promptly reschedules when they drop out.
Well, hey, we had Kevin Randleman scheduled tonight, and I know he was scheduled for your show a week or two ago, and kind of fell through each time. But
yeah, he's really cool. He always texts and said, he goes, "Look, man, my mama wants me to put the baby to sleep," and believe me, I know what that's like. I would hang up if my lady came out here right now and said, "You need to help me with this baby," because she would.
Absolutely, man, and with all these guys that take the time to, talk with us, whether we call them or they call in, I mean, shoot, they're stopping what they're doing in the middle of their day or night to talk with us. So, I don't get too pissy when they can't make the show. Shit happens. Such is life. But
I know that I like to be forgiven.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see here. Hey, my phone's ringing. I think we're calling somebody.
Hello.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Mezger. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is Jeremy. You're also on with my co-host, Dave the Butcher Clifford. Dave, say hello.
What's happening, Guy? How's it going?
Good. The Butcher, huh?
That's right. And actually, because I cut meat for 10 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that like your girlfriend's for you, or is that your fight name? So.
Nope, no fighting here. I'm just an announcer. I start the fights and wait for him to shut the door and get out of the way.
Well, gang, for those of you guys that don't know who Guy Mezger is, where have you been for the last 25 years?
All the young guys won't know who I am.
What's that again, Guy?
The problem is all the young guys won't know who I am.
Yeah, the old farts, us old people, we know who you are.
Thank goodness.
But Guy Mezger, he got his start back in kickboxing. back in the early 90s. In 93 and 94, he was the world full contact karate champ. In 95, he was the I keep screwing that up. WKC world kickboxing champ. And then finally, what was that, in 94, you made your first appearance in the UFC?
Yeah, UFC 4.
We were talking, a couple hours ago before the show about your kickboxing career. And you started to tell me about a kickboxing match that took place in a bull ring down in Mexico. What was that like?
Well, it was it was interesting. We, kickboxing has never really taken off big in the United States, which is really a shame because when you really watch kickboxing today, especially to be honest, if you watch the K1 Max, which is division in K1, it's some of the best. It is probably the best fighting on available. I mean, entertainment value wise, and but it just never really took off. So I get an opportunity to fight, and back then, when you're fighting for anywhere from $500 to $1,000, and you have a hot girlfriend who spends money quicker than you make it, you fight all the time, and. So I got this opportunity to fight in San Diego. So I was like, all right. So I go to San Diego. And they're going, well, actually, we're going to go to Tijuana. I'm like, Tijuana?
Oh,
and I was like, oh, yeah, you'll love it down there. Of course, old bull ring. And, needless to say, it wasn't one of the finer highlights of my career. It was when I started definitely thinking, I think I need to make an adjustment in my career choice here because this isn't cut. And that was very shortly after I joined. Actually, the funny thing is, I was kind of finishing up. I was the number one rated kickboxer in the world. I couldn't get a title shot because back then the promoters kind of owned the sanctioning bodies, and not literally, but they did because they were throwing the fights and they dictated what was going on unless you sold your soul to these guys. And for very little money, you didn't get a title shot. So I thought, I'm never going to get a title shot. And then the UFC came around, and they were looking, because you remember the UFC back then, it really wasn't athlete against athlete. It was style against style. Put a wrestler against a, karate guy against a boxer against a jiu-jitsu, the whole thing like that. And so it was more of a spectacle. And so that came around, and I thought, you know what? I could win that because, I was an All-American wrestler in high school, and I wrestled in college, and I was a nationally ranked judo player on top of being,
really?
a good kickboxer. Yeah.
So you were, I didn't read anything about the judo. That's awesome. So you were a true mixed martial artist before there were mixed martial artists in the actual Ultimate Fighting Championship. That's awesome and commendable, and thank you. Continue.
Yeah, well, that's funny. I'm kind of the pre-runner of that kind of that athlete, because I was real well versed. So I knew I could win, and I figured, what the hell, I'll do this thing. Because I said, this is going to stick around for very long. I might as well go ahead and say I fought in this crazy tournament and and retire, because I figured, because there wasn't a huge amount of money in it, and I was like, all right, I'll just say I did that, and that was a great accomplishment as a martial artist and a competitor, and that'd be it. And little did I know that I'd stop one career and start another. So, that's
and shortly after the UFC experience, you headed to Japan. You started fighting in Pancrase. Oh, and that's as we were talking about earlier. The money was in Japan, and before long you were the king of Pancrase, world champion. You seem to be a world champion wherever you go.
Well, thanks for noticing. And I work hard, to be honest. There's very few. In fact, I really worked myself too hard. I actually, wore myself out. And I love training. The only reason I really retired, I love the discipline of the training. I love the competing. But, even though it was my career and I was making, pretty good money, well, actually really good money, especially overseas, it came to the point where I realized at, 37 that, I'm probably not going to be the champion anymore. What my audience don't realize is that I had 60 fights before I even stepped into the UFC, with boxing, and karate. So, my body was worn out, and I realized I'm probably not going to be the champ. And And I really didn't get it sounds funny, I didn't even get in the fight business for the money. I got into it because I just loved it. And once I realized I couldn't be the champ, I said, I don't want to, I didn't have a desire really to fight after that after a while, So I said, you know what? Let's see if I can make a living doing something else. So that's what
I'll tell you what. Before we get into that, I have a couple questions on what we've already just covered because it is really interesting to me because I don't get. See, I just started doing what I do within the last 4 or 5 years. Much like you, I watched a couple tapes back when the first couple UFCs come out and went, it was fucking boring. And I went right back to boxing and WWF, to be honest. That was more exciting to watch to me. And I get to see kickboxing tournaments once in a while on the satellite, and I used to love it. I remember that and thinking to myself, why can't I go watch this? And so for you, having put your heart and soul, blood and sweat into a career and into a discipline and showing up at tournaments where, people, the most knowledge they have is from, Ralph Macchio sweeping doing a fucking crane kick, on the silver. And so it's commendable to me that you do love something so much that you stick with it, and you've been there. And I really appreciate the comment about K1 Max, or whatever it's called, tomorrow or next week. They merged with one Showtime, right? They merged with its Showtime. And they put on a hell of a card. I watched that last one that Crow Cop and Badr Hari fought on.
Oh, yeah.
And you aren't kidding. That was fucking awesome. People were getting knocked out every fight except Badr Hari's because he looked like shit. But other than that, it was awesome, and thank you so much for being a part of that and holding the torch for that. And here's the thing: you mentioned that not a lot of young guys know you, and as we segue into this next part of your life, as to what you've done after retiring from fighting, which is amazing to me, what you're doing. I can't wait to hear it. The question I have is, why aren't you noticeable? And I'm sure that your new career will reflect upon that. But why don't young people know who Guy Mezger is? I mean, Ken Shamrock trained with you. I mean, you've started the Tito Ortiz-Ken Shamrock feud, which is one of the best ever.
To be honest, people don't even really recognize Ken the same way. It's kind of funny too, because in your own hometown, the old saying, "You can't be a prophet in your own hometown." I'll go out to someplace and somebody will kind of give me funny looks, and I'm like, great, I got a tough guy. And then they'll come up and go, "Are you Guy Mezger?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "Oh, this is the sad part, though." I go, "When I was a kid, I used to love watching you fight." Thanks. But it's not that to be honest, I mean, like a lot of the problems with, kind of the American mindset is that it is very much, what have you done for me lately? And that's the one kind of cool thing about Japan that I like. Japan was very loyal to their athletes. If they liked an athlete, they liked an American athlete, or they liked, a Japanese athlete, or a Russian athlete, whatever. They were very loyal to them, thick or thin, because they looked at kind of like how the guy carried himself, and so it was like, even though there was a lot of guys that, like, Sakuraba is a prime example. He has a tough time really winning a fight these days, not that he should be fighting, to be honest. But
right.
He had such a fan base and such a loyalty with these guys that was crazy. And Hoist Gracie and even myself, and so there was.
How many times did you fight him, Guy? How many times did you fight him?
Fight who? Sakuraba?
Yeah, was it twice?
No, just that one.
Oh,
they didn't let me fight him again. And
they didn't want you to whoop his ass, probably. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, that's probably really the case. And so it was like in America, they a little bit like, it's funny because it's kind of depressing when some of these guys, like true warriors, are fighting, and not everybody has appreciation for what their contribution was. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, some do. Don't get me wrong. We have a lot of guys that are extremely knowledgeable and forthright and very grateful for that. But it's also kind of a shame you get those kind of those peripheral type fans that are one of these kind of annoyed me, even though obviously me and Tito don't necessarily have aren't exactly Facebook friends or anything. I have a lot of respect for Tito as an athlete. You know, I mean, he was a very good champion. And,
a worthy opponent.
Oh yeah, he was. Listen, you know, I mean, you love him or hate him, that guy, you know, he cut himself a niche in this thing, and he should be recognized for really being a superb champion. And you know, and it's funny because people just give him a bunch of shit and stuff about it. Now I'm like, really, he really was a dominating factor in his day, and he deserves better, you know. And
he came along at a time when the UFC needed somebody like that. I mean, he did help that organization and MMA as a whole.
Yeah,
grow.
He brought that kind of pro wrestling, but realistic type, you know, machismo into it, and you know.
Yeah, he brought the Lions Den. He brought the Lions Den ground and pound into the spotlight as well.
Well, he did a lot of ground and pounding of us, but yeah, and
right.
But
but you know what I mean? You were one of the first ground and pound victors in this whole type of. You know,
well, you know, the reason only, you know, most of the ground and pound I did was just because it was actually in the early days I was scared out of my freaking wits that we were actually fighting with no rules and no time limits, no weight classes. Once I got on top of that sucker, I'd hang on that guy like a starving spider monkey, man. He wasn't getting me off. I was just going to pound him. You know, people were like, why didn't you go for an arm bar? I was like, you go for the arm bar. I missed that arm bar. I get the guy on kicking my ass. Nah, I'm on top. I'm going to beat his ass. That's it. We're done. You know? And then, you know, it was scary. Back when the no rule stuff, man, that was, even though the athletes weren't as good, it was scarier, though. It was just the element was scarier. You know, and I
watching it.
A lot of guys would go, man, it's just like a, you know, street fight. Of course, the guy who say it's never been in a street fight, he just talks shit. You know, you're like, okay. First of all, jackass, you've never been in a street fight. Second of all, when I've been in a street fight, I usually catch the guy jawing, I punch him in the face, and I knock him out, and it's over, and I finish my beer. Now, there's no beer drinking. There's no sucker punching. He's standing 30 feet away. He knows how to fight, and he's coming right at me. And there's no rules. So it's
a whole lot different.
You know? Yeah, it was a whole lot different. So, you know.
Dude, that was the best way I've ever heard that put. That was so sweet. That was so cool how you put that, man. That you're a poet laureate when it comes to this shit, man. It was spot fucking on. Thank you.
Wow. Well, Guy, you were just talking about street fights. I know last year, you were involved in a little altercation down in Dallas.
Oh, Christmas,
yeah, and I just learned about that about 2 hours ago. Some guy was beating up on a lady and pulled a knife on you, or what?
Yeah, what happened was I was at a sporting goods store, and I was picking up a bike. It was like it was December 18th, you know, just before Christmas, and it was a Sunday, and I just got out of church and literally dropped the family off, and I went to, you know, get this bike for my daughter. It was going to be a Christmas present. And so, you know, as I'm kind of late, you know, running late in the day because we're going to have a Christmas party and everything for I have two businesses, and then we're going to have a big Christmas party at my house. And of course, as usual, I'm running late. And so I'm like running over there, and like I see this kind of something going on over in the back part of the parking lot, and I didn't pay any attention. I ran inside, grabbed the bike. I forgot my wallet, so I had to run back out and grab my wallet. And when I did, I noticed something. And then when I got back, I started going back. I see this girl go flying backwards and fall against this car on the ground. And this guy standing over her, and literally about 10 F-bombs got thrown. I was like, oh, something's going on. So I ran over there to see what's going on. And this lady's trying to keep this guy off this girl. It's like an older lady, and she kind of pushes her away. So I go, man, what's going on? He goes, he's been hitting on this girl and throwing her down, and I was like,
damn.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry?
I just said, oh, damn.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. Well, I said, did someone call the police? And she goes, well, I called the police. And this is the sad part. The sad part was that there was 8 people watching what was going on besides me and this lady, right? 8 other people, and 3 of them were men, and all of them were bigger than this guy. And one of them was like 250, and all he was doing was filming it with his phone. And so I
see more and more of that.
Yeah, no, it's sick. It's sickening. It makes me want to throw up. And people want to know what's wrong with America. Well, you know what? There's a whole breed of freaking cowards, and for some reason that's okay. For some reason he was doing, you know, he didn't want to get involved. He just wanted to film and put it on YouTube instead of, justify being a coward is what he was doing. And
right.
And so, so I get in between him and the girl, and I'm trying to talk him out of, I'm like, dude, settle down, like this. And, he comes at me, and to be honest, he couldn't fight a lick. I mean, when I say a lick, I mean, it kind of reminded like the old Little Rascal shows when the bully puts the hand on top of the kid, and he's
and arms are just swinging, yeah.
Yeah, it was serious. It was almost that bad. And but he ended up kind of clinching with me, and I'm holding, still trying to tie down, and he bit me. So I actually threw him in the head and arm, and he landed. I mean, he was much smaller than me. He was probably about 25 pounds, 30 pounds lighter than me, and he went flying. And he actually hit the ground, knocked him out, and I was a little freaked out because I was thinking, okay, I just killed this guy, and because he was completely limp. I'm thinking this girl's gonna suddenly, he hadn't beaten her up. Suddenly he's a saint, and I'm a bully, And I'm freaking out, so I'm sitting there trying to make sure this guy ain't dead, and I find his pulse. I'm like, all right, he's all right. So I get up, and I help her up, and I ask her if she's okay. She's like, yeah. She's actually real thankful and everything. And then he gets up, and, and I figured, okay, one of two things. He's either coming at me, or he's just going to talk smack and back off, because he just got handled. I figured he was just going to talk smack and back off, because, he got handled like a little girl. And
right.
Yeah, he came straight at me. I didn't see him, I didn't see him pull out his knife. And and he came at me, he threw a punch, what I thought was a punch, and I blocked it, and I hit him with my right hand and knocked him out again. And and then the knife fell out of his hand, and I was like, oh, shit, man, I could have been cut. And I looked down at my hand, and it was cut. So.
And you were sliced open pretty damn bad, weren't you?
Yeah, he cut through all three of my tendons. It was
holy shit, man.
Yeah. It could have been, it could have been worse. It could have been. I mean, he was aiming for my head, so he turned out to be a very bad guy. He was actually on parole. He'd only been on parole for 8 months. 2 of those months, there was a warrant out for his arrest because he failed a drug test, and he was in jail for manslaughter, so he wasn't like a nice guy. And
oh damn.
Yeah, I mean, of all guys for me to like after he arrest you, I get the psycho, Christmas bunny, and. And so so I got. I mean, it was one of those situations where I really wish it didn't happen, but when you read the report what this girl had gone through in the last 3 days leading up to this, to be honest, I feel good about myself as a human being. I don't mind getting cut for helping her out like that, because she was going through some pretty terrifying things, and so. Well, and like,
like
this is a good story.
With that guy, I mean, there was 3 big guys standing around and, all with their cameras out looking to post something on YouTube. Chivalry is dead, in my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you, I almost put him in the hospital because my hand's cut, and I don't really know how bad it's cut. Cause when I say it didn't hurt, I mean literally didn't hurt. And I had pressure on it pretty good. So I said, hey, can I go inside and get a towel for my hand, and so I see how bad it is. They're like, yeah. So I go inside, I get a towel, and I realized that I'm going to need, I still didn't realize how bad it was, but it started bleeding real bad. So I knew I was going to have to get stitches. And so I wrap up my towel, and I go back out, and I'm walking up to the guy who's kind of like, you can tell he's the man in charge, and he's listening to this guy give a report. And I was just going to tell him, hey, listen, I'm going to go to the hospital, because I was still trying to make my son's soccer game, figure out whether to tell my wife that the reason I got stitches and make it to my Christmas party. So I got all this stuff I got to do. And so I'm like going, hey, I'm going to go to the hospital. And I'm listening to this guy tell the story about his involvement in the situation. And he tells this complete fairy tale about his involvement. And I'm like.
Trying to make you out the bad guy?
No, trying to make him like he did, like he was a good guy, like he did anything. He goes, yeah, I saw they got cut, but. I made a jump for the guy, and I missed him, and I went, dude, you'd have to be I think you have to be in the same zip code in order to do that. You were so far back, it was ridiculous. I go, none of this. I said, that guy didn't do anything. He's lying. Whatever story he's saying, he sat back and told me the whole time, he's a liar. And the guy sits there, and he's like real pissy, and he goes, what do you expect? What do you expect to do? I said, I don't know. I said, there's 3 of you big guys here. You could have held this guy down. It didn't have to come down to the fact I got cut. You could have held him down by the time the cops got here. I go, that's ridiculous. And one of the guys goes to me, look what it got you, hero. And
yeah, right.
I looked at him, and I was so mad. I was like, I made it like kind of like I lunged at him like that, and he like, almost fell over the curb, and I was like, yeah, you see, jackass? I go, you're lucky the cops are here. So I said, there would be an extra person going to the hospital, and cops were like, settle down. I go, I'm settled down. I said, I go, buddy, I'll tell you what, when I'm having a tough time shaving in the morning, I might be saying this is not the smartest thing I ever did, but you know what I won't see in the mirror? I said, I won't see a coward. I go, yeah, that's something you're never going to be able to ever do again.
And definitely, be able to sleep well at night.
Yeah, I wish it didn't happen, but it did. So can't change things, And to be honest, like I said, after I found out what this woman went through, I was, to be honest, I was more than happy to sacrifice 3 months in a cast to help her.
Well, Guy, after you retired, I was looking at my notes here. After you retired, I mean, you continued on in the business and working in the sports business. I know, gosh, you did a little bit, had a little stint over there with the guys at HDNet. You got into some, just a short stint.
Yeah,
just a short little bit of time with those guys.
Yeah.
What was that like working with Mark Cuban and getting that launched?
It was one of the best experiences of my life, to be honest. I got the opportunity to work with Mark, pretty closely, especially at the beginning, and also a man named Andrew Simon, who is the president and CEO now. When I left HDNet, he took over both the president and the CEO position, and so Andrew Simon and Mark Cuban were probably the two smartest guys I've ever had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with. And you can't help but have that kind of stuff rub off on you, And it was a great experience, I mean, you look at a guy who, envisions things and makes them happen. And, that's really kind of what he did with us. We had some big decisions to make, one of the decisions we were making was going to cost him $5 million, and I was so freaking out on it. I was like, I don't even balance my checkbook, let alone make decisions that are going to make $5 million. And,
right, that's a chunk of cash, brother.
Yeah, and it turned out to be a really good thing we did, and HDNet Fights became the #1 programming in HDNet within a 6-month period, and it's still the top rated programming, and we did it for next to nothing. And
you guys at HDNet were one of the first channels to come along that actually showed MMA and fights on cable TV without having to go through pay-per-view channels and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, they hired the best commentators too. Rutten's my favorite to hear talk about this stuff. He's great.
Oh yeah, Bas is great. Actually, when we put together the Inside MMA show, they were like, I was like, it's got to be Bas Rutten. I said, you got to hire Bas Rutten. They're like, and of course, they didn't really know how I'd be, and I go, no, listen, me and Bas are like really good buddies, and we spent many, many years in Japan together doing debaucherous things. We can probably talk about it now because I think the statute of limitations is probably up on most of the crimes.
Hell yeah.
But
I wanted to ask you about that, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, but and I knew he'd be phenomenal for that part. I just knew he would. And and sure enough, Bas is really he is he's such a mainstay for martial arts. He's one of those guys that again, he's another guy who is kind of learned on the job thing. He was a kickboxer, knew nothing about submission, and really learned how to do it, and became such a world class and a world champion. So. Well,
and he lived he lived fighting. I mean, that guy from his time in Europe, working as a bouncer in the different coffee shops and places that he worked. I mean, he's been fighting.
Bas likes to fight. We would get into a scrabble now and then in Japan, and it would be Bas would be dislocating somebody's knee or.
So I mean, is he really as crazy as he appears? I mean, yet still.
Well, he's a lot more mellow now. I mean, we all are a lot more mellow now. But yeah, in his day, Bas was probably the craziest son of a bitch I ever knew. I mean, we would do pretty. I mean, seriously, I tell stories about Japan and I calm them down because if I told the real story, nobody would believe it. It'd be like, bullshit. I'd be like, no, seriously, this really happened, you know, and people would be like rolling their eyes. I was like, all right, you know.
Well, guys, lay one on us, man. Give us one without taming it down. Give it to us.
I want to hear some lecherous debauchery, like for real. Let's but give us a good ugly one.
I won't give you a really super ugly one because I don't know how Bas was like that, but I'll tell you one that was just it was my first trip to Japan, and
do a pancrase?
Yeah, pancrase. And well, actually, I actually fought in the World Karate Championships, but it was my first time that I went out in Japan. You know what I mean? And partied and stuff. And we were in Roppongi. And Roppongi is a little township inside Tokyo, and it's where all the parties are at. You know, and back in the '90s, it was Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, it was really Sodom and Gomorrah. And so we're at this place called Gas Panic. It's this little itty bitty club, and it's just packed, and there's music and stuff. And so I had a reasonably tough fight, and so I was sitting down, and I'm not a big drinker or anything, but, you know, I used to drink after my fights, and I have a beer or two, and so I'm sitting down, and I sit next to this guy who's obviously in the military, and you know, I just talked to him a little bit, and all of a sudden his friend comes up to him really agitated, and goes, and I don't know, you know, I couldn't hear his music, and then his friend, he kind of looks over at me and goes, "You want to see something funny?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm always up for a laugh. What?" And he goes, "You see that big bald dude over there?" And it's Bas. And Bas is in the middle of this dance floor, okay? You got to understand he's like a foot taller than all these girls and everything, right? And Bas is doing his dance, and it's a very unique Bas dance. And and I go, "Yeah." I said, "I see him." He goes, "He's about to get his ass kicked." And I said, "I don't know about that, man. You know, that's Bas Rutten." And he goes, "Yeah, who's that?" And I go, because back then, you see, pancrase was like saying you were a werewolf or something. Because literally, if you wanted to back somebody off, people would go, like, we almost got in a fight one time, and these guys run up, these Japanese, he goes, no, they're pancrase. And like everyone's like, oh, gosh, like we're like werewolves or something, you know? And so I kind of looked, I go, you don't want to mess with him. He's pancrase. I figured he'd know what that was, right? And he goes, I don't know what that is, but he goes, let's see how he does against a bunch of Navy SEALs. And I'm like, oh, you guys are a bunch of Navy SEALs, like this. Oh no! And I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I'm like, you know, I mean, Navy SEALs don't not a fist fight. They're you know, and so I'm like freaking out because I'm like, you know, I know Bas is about to get jumped, so I'm like, oh shit. And so I see Vernon White, and I grab Vernon. I go, Vernon. I said, tell Bas he's about to get hit. I said, I don't know where they're coming from, but there's a bunch of them. So. So Vernon runs and tells Leon. Leon is Bas's buddy that used to fight with us, and it was real funny because I'm like don't know what to do because I'm like I just don't want to I don't want to get in a fight in a foreign country and again this is my first time in Japan or it might have been
end up in a Japanese jail or something.
Yeah, which would probably be better than a Turkish prison, but I don't know how much.
Right.
And then
lower ceiling.
And then so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden you see Leon there, and Bas kind of ducks his head down to listen to Leon. Then you see Bas's head pop up. He looks around. Sure enough, he sees this guy coming. Bam! He hits this guy. He goes down. Leon hits another guy. Boom! Now there's this mad rush to get out. So everybody's freaking out, running, trying to get out of this little wall, right? And so they have to come by me. So this guy jumps up to get into the fight. And I was like, and he runs by me. I grab him. I choke him out. I like this. I just choked him out. I laid him over on the bar. As I did, and this guy comes up behind me and slams me into the bar, starts yelling at me. He goes, "You better back up." I said, "All right." He backed up. I round kicked him in the head.
Damn.
Yeah. I round kicked him in the head. He starts falling, like wobbling backwards, like doing the pumpkin dance. Right in the Bas hits him with the right hand, knocks him cold. And so, like, in a matter of 30 seconds, a completely packed, overpacked bar was completely empty, except for the bartenders in the back, me, Leon Dyke, and Bas. And there were 6 knocked out guys.
Holy shit.
We're like, oh, shit. So we just walk out of the bar, and the entire bar is waiting for us outside. And we're like, we're like, holy shit, we took off running, you know. We went to
I was just going to say, were you scared that you might not make it out alive?
Did they applaud?
We just didn't want to go. We didn't want to, you know, because Bas apparently got in so much trouble that the Pancrase guys were always nervous about, you know, the office guys were always nervous about Bas going out. And so literally what we did is we ran to another bar that was upstairs in this thing, and the cops were like, it's not like Bas can hide. He's bald, and back then he had this mustache and goatee, so he looked like a muscular Lenin. And
and then like Japan, you know, you guys are tall. You know, a lot of people aren't as tall, so it's pretty easy to point out.
Yes, and so literally we go to this bar. Bas knows the bartender, so we jump over the bar, sit down behind the bar, drinking beer and shooting tequila while the cops are looking for us.
That's just awesome.
Yeah. That was a sweet story, man.
That was not terribly debaucherous one, but it was one of our trademark experiences there.
Entertaining, and for your first time over there, you must have loved it and wanted to go back real fast, and obviously you did. You formed a relationship with Japan, and you know, since we're getting kind of close to the end here, I wish I could hear more and more of this, dude. You're awesome. This is great to talk to you.
I'm having a blast.
You know, yeah, it's a blessing in my career. You know, just being a ring announcer, I don't get to do all this stuff, but I do get to bear witness to some fun times afterwards. I don't drink myself, but after I announce, which I believe I got on HDNet once through King of the Cage, to be honest with you. But
did you? Which one? I mean, I was actually the president then when we worked King of the Cage briefly.
Well, from what I understand, I did a show at Leelanau Sands Casino, and then I worked. You could see me cage side judging and being just a cage side worker at some of the bigger shows in Minnesota. But from what I understand, they would throw the best of fights into a show, then they would have from all over the place. And supposedly one of my fights got on there. I don't have the channel because I live up here in rural Michigan, so I don't get a whole lot of HDNet. I have to rely on looking at tapes of it, and so I really. You know, it's really cool to just all the stuff that you've done for us to set the table that I now feed my family from. I really want to thank you about, and in respect to that, I'd like to know what you got going on now. I mean, what's your hustle now? What do you do for a living? I mean, what are you into these days, and how do you take care of yourself, Guy?
Well, you know, I've had a gym for 24 years. When I turned pro as a kickboxer, I also opened up my martial arts gym, and I teach. You know, it's a big gym actually. We have about 300 members, and of course I've been teaching for about 20. This is our 24th year in Dallas.
What town is that in?
Dallas, Texas.
Oh, awesome.
And so I'm kind of like a mainstay of like Dallas martial arts, you know, here. You know, I've been around forever. We have, like I said, one of the most successful gyms, and it's a beautiful gym. If you ever go to GuyMezger.com, you can see some pictures of it. We really, especially for a martial arts gym, it's badass. And it's very Spartan.
Is that the Combat Sports Club?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, you know, I've been doing that, and then when I like most people know, I was the president of HDNet Fights, but when I first retired, I started a consulting company. That's where Mark Cuban got hold of me, and but I decided, like a lot of people didn't realize, I never finished college. I got out of college. I was 20 years old when I turned pro, and I never went back, and so I went and I finished up my degree in holistic medicine, and started the forerunner of a new company. And that's when I went to work for HDNet, and I worked for Mark for 4 years, and was really, like I said, I really was proud of myself because we built a non-existence programming into the top programming for our station, and it was like I said, a great experience. But really, what it taught me more than anything is, like Mark would say, is do what's going to make you happy. Well, I enjoyed TV and I enjoyed working for them, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So, you know what I mean? And so I left HDNet to open a company called Optimal Health Specialist, which is a doctor's group. We have a group of medical doctors and naturopaths, homeopaths, and holistic health practitioner like me.
Oh, wow, really? So you're a PhD?
No, I'm not. I'm actually in the PhD program right now. I'm actually a holistic health practitioner, which is
wow,
not a doctor. But
hey, I have a daughter. I have a daughter that's just about to turn 2 months old, and we have not. And she's strictly breastfed, and we have not given her any vaccinations. Thank you for doing what you do. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. I would definitely look. There's a couple of vaccinations you may want to look into, but what you really want to look to when you do your vaccinations and stuff is you want to look to what's relevant for today, because we give a lot of stuff that's not really relevant for today, and breastfeeding is phenomenal. It shows children have higher intelligence that are breastfed. Their immune system is a lot better. There's a lot of really good stuff. You can actually contact me. I'll give you a whole bunch of good hints about that.
Thank you.
But yeah, so that's what. So what I did is I basically started a company with these doctors that are very forward thinking. You know, the problem with medicine today is that we go to the doctor when we think we're broken. And in Eastern medicine, you know, in Chinese medicine and Vedic medicine, they go to the doctor to stay healthy. And it's a different thought process, because you think, what is healthy? Well, you know, I mean, am I performing optimally? That's when you know you're healthy. If you're not performing optimally, then you're not really healthy. You might be getting through life, you might be okay, but it's not being the best you could be. So really what we do is we look at people's lifestyles, you know, everything from their nutrition, their workouts, you know, of course, diet, you know, sleep. I mean, it sounds funny, but the number one way you want to be healthy, get regular sleep. I swear to God, the best way to stay healthy. And the second most important thing is nutrition. And so, you know, so what we do is we go in there and we look at that kind of stuff, and we also do a ton of diagnostic testing. We use the Zyto scanning, which I don't know if we have time, but you know, Chris, your main man here, got me on the show. He's actually going to be the first. He's going to be the first Zyto certified engineer in Illinois. And what a Zyto scan does, it's very cool stuff. It works on the galvanic skin responses. And so basically, it looks like something out of Star Trek, but it's 99% accurate when it does this stuff. It's an amazing device, and it checks. Well, the limitation is you have to ask questions and give it a format in which to answer the question. So what the questions we ask people is, you know, this computer or this testing will do. Well, like it goes. We have like 3 different tests. We have a health and longevity test. We have an athletic test, and we have a fat loss test. So you take one of the tests, and it tells you where you are nutritionally and what you need nutritionally and supplements, you know, different supplements in order to achieve your goals. And which is really actually phenomenal, because, you know, what people don't realize, most of us, is that we're just taking stuff because we think we need it. And to be honest, most of the stuff that people are taking, you don't need. In fact, a big thing that athletes take that they should never take, combat athletes, is creatine. Creatine's huge. People, creatine's great. No. It's actually not, because we tend to be very dehydrated naturally because we're always training, you know. So we always stay a step too dehydrated, and basically, so your creatine will ruin your kidneys that way. So there's little things like that people don't know, because they don't really have an answer. And the coolest thing about the Zyto scan is it gives you those answers. And so there's no guessing on your supplementation. And like I said, Chris is going to be certifying that. I think he'll be in September. He'll be doing that, and he'll be like the first guy in y'all's area to do that kind of stuff. And it's going to be, it's actually a really great diagnostic tool. Of course, we do extensive blood testing stuff, and then we come back and we have it's reviewed by 3 or actually 4 practitioners, and then we give recommendations on what they need, and depending on what it is. I mean, we work with athletes, so we have a whole line of natural products that are legal within the bounds of, you know, different restrictions, you know, that are required, you know, like DHAE, which is a common supplement. It's a hormone supplement that you can get over the counter, but you can't take that if you're a professional football player or a professional baseball player or something like that. And so what we do is we you know, depending on what you are athletically, we heighten you within the legal bounds, and also help you avoid getting into products that would get you in trouble. And then, of course, we work with, our main practice is just the general people and getting them. We do have one of the top hormone doctors who works with bioidentical, but we work as much as we can natural. In fact, 75% of our patients do all natural therapies, and
awesome.
We're real proud of that.
What's the name of this company again, just so we get it out there? Get it out there again during the.
Optimal Health Specialists.
Optimal, OPTIMA.
Yeah, Optimal Health Specialists, and our website is. We actually had to. We have a splash site out now because we had to redo our website because of. We've grown so much, and so we had a soft opening this year. It took me basically 2 years to get this thing going, and we opened up a bit for business and doing stuff in January. And it's been a little bit. To be honest, it's been a little bit too successful, and so we're kind of like.
Good.
And it's not a bad thing. It's just suddenly all of a sudden we had there's a lot of regulations that we have to apply to because this is a medical. Yeah, and so we had to all right, we have to really get this going. So our website's not up. There's a splash page, so anybody who wants to get any information to me, there's a splash page that they can fill out information, and I can get information to you. And we like I said, we do. We do road shows. Like in September, I'm going to go up there and with Chris, and he's doing which is a really cool thing. He's doing kind of the first kind of a minor expo. He's bringing in Stitch and to talk to train people on how to be a good corner man and cut man, and then he's bringing in a referee to teach people how to be what to look for and how to be better referees. He's bringing me in to do two things. One, talk about natural supplementation, which again is my expertise as a holistic health practitioner, and then also, of course, maybe I could probably still teach a little MMA there every now and then. I know a little bit about that too.
Shit.
So,
hey, I have a question while we're on holistic. Yeah. Now, holistic.
Hey, I hate to interrupt, guys. We got the 2-minute warning.
Okay,
all right.
2 minutes. Holistically, how much do you believe in herbal supplements, and do you use all natural? Like when you mean natural, do you ever do any of the psychic, like the Edgar Cayce stuff? Wasn't he a holistic seer as well? You know about Edgar Cayce?
I mean, I'm a little bit more in like intuitives, medical intuitives. It's not that I don't think that there really are some, because I think most doctors that are really good have a natural intuitiveness of them. But as a normal, as the classic medical intuitive, I'm not a big fan of. I like the idea that you have an intuitive guide to what you're doing, but let's back it up with science. And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of herbal medicines. And really you can get phenomenal results. I mean, we have a compound that we put together which gets phenomenal healing results in your body, and it has 17 different growth factors, which are 100% natural. K-N-O-D, it comes from a natural resource, a superfood, and it's 100% reliable. It can't poison yourself, and it's not a medicine. It's not a medicine. And
I'll tell you what, they just legalized medicinal marijuana in Michigan, and guys are making salves for fighters now and doing things with it. I mean, a lot of stuff is coming out now that they've allowed people.
Getting off. Yeah, well, the thing is, I think people are recognizing, the one thing people don't understand is medicine only facilitates having your body heal itself. All medicine does is do something your body does for itself at a better rate. Antibiotics. Your body has antibiotics in it already. Sometimes you get overwhelmed, so you have to take some extra antibiotics to allow your body to do what it do anyway. And so,
well, guys,
understand.
I hate to interrupt you, but I'm about to run out of time.
Not a problem. I tell you what,
this Dave the Butcher. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, listen, have me back another time. We can talk about this and talk more about MMA. I'd love to bend your ear. There's very few people you'll ever meet who loves to hear themselves speak as much as me. So,
Guy, I love MMA, and I've had such a blast talking to you tonight. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us, man. And we definitely look forward to having you on soon.
How about next week?
Beautiful.
Right on. Well, Guy, thanks again, man. You take care of yourself, brother, and have yourself a great evening.
You too. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All righty, Dave, you still with me, bud?
Yeah, that was awesome. What a cool dude.
All right, I got about 30 seconds left. I just want to say thanks to you for joining us tonight. Catch Dave every Wednesday night on Uncaged MMA at 10 Central, 11 Eastern. Dave, I will talk at you, sometime between now and next Monday.
All right, thank you. Get your Training Mask 2.0 released. They're now on the market.
Have a great night, Dave, and thanks again. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. If you need insurance, QCinsurance.com is where to go. Need a cab, Tri-County Cab, 497-1111. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you next week.
He's a hustler. I ain't got nothing. Give me $1. Make it 5. Trying to stay alive.